Warning: the following show is categorized as offensive and is banned in several jurisdictions. The views expressed do not represent Cracked Canopy Radio, its subsidiaries or its advertising partners. Listener discretion is advised.
It's Friday the 7th of May, 3307. It's 11 PM Galactic Time and you're listening to the Galaxy's Greatest Radio Show on the Galaxy's Greatest Radio Station. It's the Crack Canopy Radio Show. I'm your host, Commander Farquhar, joined, as always, by my co-host, Commander Wolf.
Hello.
And this week's guest host, Mr. Drip Wide.
What is good?
How's it going, gentlemen? Obviously, we've got a very, very packed week in the galactic news to talk about. So I think we'll just jump straight into it with the continuation of the Salvation story. So we obviously touched on this a couple of weeks ago with the Salvation signal being sent out originally from the megaship. And obviously now this has obviously concluded with the Hesperus megaship being found in the Perseus Dark region. And now obviously there's a whole key being issued apparently, and there's logs being transcribed and stuff. Wolf, I know you're actually currently out in the region. Have you got any insights into what's going on out there, or any news to share with us, to share with the listeners?
It's a bit of a mystery, if I'm honest. I'm currently at the Hind main asteroid base in the T-Tauri system, and apart from obviously the mining company, yeah, it's very mysterious.
Well, obviously, this is the thing that I was going to ask you about, being out there and stuff. Obviously, the mining company itself, not a lot's really known about them and what their association with Salvation is. Now, obviously, they did release a statement saying Salvation has authorized us to offer 2 million credits or 10 units of void opals for delivering the Hesperus logs. This contract ends on the 21st of May 3307, after which payments will not be available. We have been asked to relay the message below. This is Salvation. I call myself this as I cannot yet reveal my identity, but my scientific breakthroughs will literally save all of humanity. The Adamastor and the Hesperus were just the beginning, as I have always known. For my intrepid agents, there will be further work to come. Now, we should obviously state that the Pilots Federation has issued a warning to all pilots about undertaking any work for the mysterious Salvation identity, who obviously is choosing to remain anonymous. But obviously my gripe with all of this, as I obviously said in the very beginning, about how this is probably some wacky dude who thinks he can save the galaxy, and I have been proven right on that fact, is also the fact that they say they don't know who he is, but then they warn about working with potential criminal organisations. I don't believe that. I don't believe for a second that they don't at least have some clue as to the identity of this person or people are. Because, for all we know, this doesn't necessarily, just because it says it's one person, like calls himself Salvation and stuff, doesn't necessarily mean that it actually is one person. This could be any number of things masquerading behind this one identity. Like, have you seen anything unusual out there with the mining corporation that are involved? Have you seen any like unusual activity? Have you spoken to any of the pilots that are out there at the moment? Have they had any unusual experiences? Any things to add to all of this kind of mystery?
Well, I tried to get Patience Middleton for, a comment. However, she declined. And if I'm honest, she's trying my patience. But as far as the general atmosphere is concerned, it's all very, cloak and dagger.
But it's very interesting that they released the statement and then are refusing to give any more clarification. Because I know you're not the only one that has been unable to get a statement with Miss Middleton. Drip Wide. So obviously, this is a little bit out of your wheelhouse, being involved in pimping people's ships and following galactic cops around. But what would you make of all of this this sort of stuff going on currently with the Salvation Signal and the ongoing sort of progression of it?
All right, look, man. I'm going to jump down a deep rabbit hole with the whole thing. I think that the Pilots Federation and Hudson are behind the Salvation. It only makes sense. I mean, all of them. I mean, they all got an agenda. How are you going to successfully arrest Duval if it's kind of forming a faction against a faction? They're fighting lightly against themselves to take on Duval. I mean, it makes sense. It's all just a big giant sort of illegal mess, and they're using their political powers to take down a threat. It makes sense to me.
Well, I'm not entirely sure, obviously, how much that is actually connected. It's an interesting theory, obviously, that all of the current main headlines within the galaxy, like all of the big news stories, could maybe somehow be kind of intertwined and stuff like that. It is a theory to postulate. Obviously, I would like to add the disclaimer that this radio station does not propagate any theories like that or believe any sort of theories in that regard. But yeah, it's a very interesting time to anyone, obviously, that is going out to the T-Tory system. As Wolf obviously pointed out, it's a little bit cloak and dagger out there. So I would watch yourself if you are out there, and I would maybe obviously think twice about getting involved in this, because again, who knows what this Salvation is, who knows who it is, who knows what body of people they might be working for, and what their scientific breakthroughs actually be. It could just be some crackpot who's managed to get some old shiplog keys, and he's planted them beaconing out of these various ships using sophisticated hacking and stuff. These are the theories, I guess, that we can put out there to our listeners on our socials. So if you want to get involved, if you want to tell us your theories, tell us what you think about our theories, if you're out in the T-Tory region, if you've gone out to the Hesperus, get in touch, let us know. But we will be back after this.
Sergeant Knight here. When I'm not filming the latest Galactic hit movie, I'm eating the All the Meats burger with spicy synthetic meat strips at Zach's Space Snacks. Come on down now and win a chance to be in my next movie, Kincaid.
Halcyon and Valentina Franco, Runaway, Hughes remix.
Of a cliff, realize there must be more to life than this. Reaching for the stars, traveling so far, like a dragonfly. Just grab my hand from heaven send. With me tonight, I run away.
And we are back. So obviously the next story in tonight's show is yet again another continuation from the last couple of weeks. Is the Hadrian Duval drama. So obviously he's now under not necessarily direct attack, but there is a group aligned with the Federation now actually attacking Nova Imperium inside one of their systems. In direct response to the allegations of Hadrian working with the NMLA. Now, obviously, this topic has been in the news a lot. There has been a lot of different pundits and people weighing in with their theories and opinions, us included. Guys, I'm pretty sure you've been keeping up to date with this story. So, what are your thoughts on it? What are your thoughts on the federal escalation now against Hadrian Duval?
I personally think that both sides have to be very careful. Whether or not Hadrian is as guilty as charged, time will only tell. However, I do still worry about the prospect of all-out war.
Well, yeah, that's obviously a definitely real prospect where you've got the Federation being dragged in due to the fact that this faction obviously do have federal alignment, and obviously even though Nova Imperium are isolationists and do kind of do a degree stand alone, they obviously are still aligned with the Empire. So this obviously does have the ramifications of a potential diplomatic incident. Now, obviously, Drip Wide, we talked a little bit about this last week on my late night Monday show. We obviously got into that a little bit for the people that didn't hear it. Unfortunately, it was a very good episode. We obviously talked about the potential conspiracy theories about it, and we obviously did mention that there could be potential escalation. It seemed on the federal front by the Federation, and obviously that's now happened. So, what are your theories about it? What are your opinions on this subject?
Now, look, man, I'm no rocket scientist, but I'm pretty sure it's a bold statement to be saying Hadrian Duval is a terrorist, especially if Duval is following the peace treaty made between the Empire and Pereza. Am I wrong?
Well, no, obviously, no,
Or-
you're not. I don't think anyone can dispute that. I think obviously the one caveat that I think we do need to mention, and I did see it mentioned in our socials and stuff like that. Hadrian obviously isn't completely guilt free. Like he does have past discourse with these sorts of tactics. Obviously, Nova Imperium did conduct some would consider guerrilla style terrorist campaigns against the Empire a couple of years ago. And obviously, that was resolved with him being welcomed nominally back into the Imperial family and with Nova Imperium coming back under the Imperial umbrella. So it's not a complete stretch for him to be implicated in this. Obviously, I think the stretch comes when you look at the actual outlooks of the different factions, be it Nova Imperium and the Marlinists. Now, obviously, Wolf, you had a run-in with the Marlinists when you were down investigating this, and obviously we've had quite a few Marlinists contact the station and contact the show, especially unhappy with me. So before I obviously let you respond to them yourself, Wolf, I would just like to say to all Marlinists out there listening, go fuck yourself. And I don't use that language lightly, but I'll say it again just so you hear me. Go fuck yourself. If you want to come at me, you can fucking try. I own a dirty great big Corvette, and I will shoot you to death with it. But Commander Wolf, obviously you share similar sentiment to me. So what are your thoughts on the Marlinists and obviously the escalation of the Federation going against Hadrian now by proxy?
Looking at it from, a sort of centralized perspective, it's rather easy to tell who the aggressors are. Now, obviously, you've got Imperial on one side, you've got Federation on the other, and right in the middle is Hadrian. how is that situation going to develop? Now, the other aspect there is obviously the Malinists themselves have had a lot of, you know, reputation problems following the bombings of multiple starports and the killing of many civilians. And I also share your message to the Malinists.
Distasteful. Their tactics are distasteful, and I think obviously we can sit there and highlight that Hadrian has been guilty of using similar tactics, maybe not to the same extremes as what the Marlinists have done, regardless of his implications of it. As it currently stands, he's implied to be in league with the Marlinists. The Marlinists, ipso facto, committed those bombings, regardless of whether it was on Hadrian's orders or not. They committed those bombings, so we at least know for sure that the Marlinists are involved. And as I stressed before on the other show, like, we can't trust the Marlinists. Like, you can't trust the Marlinists at their word. They've already shown that they're untrustworthy, and I think it kind of falls into their hands yet again, sowing this discord, and they've already proven that they're willing to sow discord towards their own ends, because yet again they've now dragged the Federation into an imperial matter. Like, it's an imperial matter. Now, okay, I understand that if Hadrian is behind the Marlinist attacks on these starports, that did include federal starports, and obviously the vice president of the Federation was killed in that bombing attack. But it's still an imperial matter, and the Federation is choosing to get itself involved rather than letting the Empire handle it. Where if the shoe was on the other foot, you know full well, and again, people can sit there and disagree with me, but you know full well the Federation would be sitting there on its high horse, demanding to know why the Empire is involving itself in matters of the Federation.
I think the verdict that Act will provide will be rather interesting, to say the least.
Well, I think they definitely need to provide some clarity on the situation, Wolf. That much is for sure.
Yeah, definitely. As I've said before, it's going to be how this is played out, especially with Federation and Imperial forces in such close proximity.
Definitely does need to be sorted out, Wolf. I can completely agree with you there. And again, like, I know the exact sentiment that you were going to say. I wouldn't be surprised if it does escalate, if it does go further. And unless Act clarify, as again, like we just said, unless they clarify exactly what information they have regarding Hadrian's role in it, if any at all, if it's anything other than just sort of spurious allegations made by one or two members looking to save their own skin, Act need to clarify on this, because otherwise this is going to turn into a massive diplomatic incident that's going to drag in at least two of the three main superpowers of the galaxy. So it would be nice if we could get some assurances from Act, if we could actually get some information from them about the credence of the claims that they are putting forth against Hadrian before all-out war breaks out in the galaxy. It would be nice. I have some business interests that I would like very much not to be blown up in the near future. Please, Act. But we will be back after these messages. Enjoy.
Star Party Legends.
you like to shoot stuff? Want to get paid for it? Then search a Redwater Mercenary Corps on Holonet. See you out there, soldier.
When you're leaving orbit in an SRV, it's Cracked Canopy Radio.
Audio Scribe, Freeform.
And we are back. So obviously we are joined by tonight's guest host, the presenter of the famed show Pimp My Ship and the new hot show premiering this weekend, Shields of Justice, Mr. Drip Wide. So Drip, obviously, for anyone not interested in your career too much, or anyone who doesn't really know much about your career, let them know. Like, get them involved, get them interested. What do you do? Like, what's Pimp My Ship about? What's Shields of Justice about? Let us know. Tell us.
I started off pretty small, you know, in a little city, somewhere near Bitenich, and I got my career started in a little mechanic spaceport. Saw a ship that I really liked. In fact, it was my own, and I started working on it, gave it new lights and everything. And then my manager comes up to me, and he likes my stuff and asks me where I learned it. You know, kind of self-taught natural talent. So we started filming it and everything, and posting it on small little net websites and all that. And then eventually it got big, and I climbed to the top. Everybody enjoys what they do, and we really do enjoy the people we work with. For the most part, those who want to be a part of the show will give us an application, and of course most of the times they get approved, unless otherwise the spaceship may be stolen or under a lease still. But we do what we can for the customers, and the satisfaction is quite high.
So you can apply to go on, and then obviously Dripwide, along with his associates at Omicron Interiors, will pimp your ship. They will kit your ship out. They will do your interiors. They will do your paint jobs. They will give you all new side rims, like side stuff, skirts, all of that sort of stuff. It's a crazy experience, and obviously you do give the complete package. Like if they've got the SRVs, all that stuff, the fighters, you do pimp them as well, which is obviously is commendable, because that you people don't necessarily think of that sort of stuff when they think of people's ships. Generally, they kind of just think of the overarching kind of like mothership part. They don't think of all like the little intricate components that a lot of people tend to have on these things. And obviously, when you take in the applications and stuff, is it kind of just a case of that you take the application with kind of an idea framework about what they want, and then put your guys
no,
at it,
actually.
or do you give the person a lot of input into how they want their ship to look?
Not only do we get the input of the ship design itself and the application, but we sort of design and judge our designs based on the sort of person that the applicant is themselves. So we do a personal interview, and we get to know the applicant a little more, what their likes and dislikes are, what their hobbies are, what they do for a living, perhaps if they have a family or not. I mean, sometimes some people may think it get a little personal, but well, when it comes to this Pimp My Ship show, that it's more of a open family kind of thing. We all
I
work
feel
together.
that. I think that vibe definitely comes across, like when you obviously watch the show. And that was just what I was wondering, because obviously it like your hit rate in terms of the people that are happy with the job that you do is obviously astronomical. I think I've only heard of maybe one or two cases in 30-something seasons that the show's been running now, where there's actually been complaints about the ship itself, like be it the interiors or the colours or something like that. And again, at least in one of those complaints that I'm aware of, Omicron Interiors did fix the issues. They did sort out the problems and stuff. So again, obviously that's it's commendable, and it's a very good thing to do, because obviously some people they can barely afford the ship. They can't afford to get all of the bells and whistles and stuff. But obviously we'll talk about Shields of Justice, your new show coming up, obviously, because that's a completely different gear to Pimp My Ship. Obviously, Pimp My Ship is a more orientated show in terms of dealing with members of the public and stuff like that. And obviously, Shields of Justice, you're on the other side. You're flying around the galaxy with the galaxy's cops, going into the most dangerous situations. So there's obviously got to be a massive speed change in terms of how you record it and how the feel of the show is. So what was it like, obviously, filming the first season?
It wasn't too bad. I mean, honestly, with the crew setup that we have and the equipment that we have now, it was pretty much smooth sailing. Just a lot of cooperation, and communication.
One thing that obviously there has been a little bit of blowback about is obviously a few of the police officers on the show did seem to apparently show a bit of unease and unhappiness about having a camera crew following them around and having obviously cameras implanted into their ships and stuff.
Well, at first, of course, the Shield of Justice was unsure about me and my crew, but they love us. I mean, we sort of sit in the back seat in a way, and we just observe the way they handle other pilots, and a lot of the times it's just action packed. You know, we go out to the pirate filled rings of certain planets, and it's just I swear there was one point where I put my hand up to the glass of the ship, and I about got burnt. It was crazy, just fire everywhere. But it's just absolutely nuts. Innocent miners out there trying to get their gold or whatever, mine their opals, and these pirates come in and try to take them out. But of course, the Shield of Justice is right there waiting for them, like a pack of wolves.
Well, obviously,
But they do it, of course. Yeah.
that's obviously good for you. Do you know what I mean? Because that's obviously led for you getting a show out of it. Obviously, following the Galaxy's cops around in these obviously high stress situational environments. So is it mainly just pirate hunting in the rings and stuff like that, or do you do like any sort of smuggling detail, anything like that? Do you see any station patrols or anything like that, or is it just exclusively down in the rings, like hunting the pirates where they live, essentially?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of station patrol. In fact, one time I was sitting in a station and I saw a giant cutter blocking another pilot from leaving the station, and immediately the Shield of Justice initiated action, and that guy was gone. I
Oh well,
feel
yeah. I think
bad for him.
anyone who's flown in the galaxy has obviously seen instances like that of malfunctioning auto docks and pilots potentially asleep, relying on their auto docks to essentially fly the ship in and out for them, which I'm privy to. That's happened at least on several occasions in the stations that I am present at most of the time. Like I've seen it firsthand, and I know pilots that have done it, and they've been unfortunate enough to lose their ships, and it's only the fact that they've had escape pods that's saved them. So, but yeah, obviously you heard it here, everybody. Go check it out. Shields of Justice live this Saturday on HoloNet, and then obviously Pimp My Ship. In the 33rd, 34th season, I think, something like that now. Go find that on HoloNet, go check it out. And if you want to apply, go apply and stuff. But yeah, Mr. Tripwide, as always, we'll be back with you after these messages and these songs.
Dread Pit Reckless Feet Sleep.
Pixelated eyes, a messy mind. Think I need to help you. I'm gonna try. Cute as hell, baby. Hotter than flames. Wanna burn together in a million ways. Now let me take the lead. Know you wanna play with me. Got secrets you might wanna see. You might wanna see. You might wanna. I know I'm not gonna regret this. Wanna get reckless, put you to the test. Yeah, I know I'm not gonna regret this. I wanna get reckless. I wanna get reckless. I wanna get reckless. I wanna get reckless. Couldn't keep your poker face. But boy, you kept me waiting when I wanted to race. Sweet as hell, baby. You're a sugar rush. I knew you were giving. Temptation was craving. You love it, you hate it. Now let me take the lead. Know you wanna play with me. Got secrets you might wanna see. You might wanna see. You might wanna. Lock the door, zip it off. Kiss my neck.
What's good, y'all? I'm Drip Wide, owner of Omicron Industries and host of the famed show Pimp My Ship. But you can also check out my new show, Shields of Justice, where I follow Galaxy's cops in the most dangerous situations this Sunday, 10 p.m. Galactic Time.
Dropping mines to pass the time. It's Cracked Canopy Radio.
Shipwreck and Zookeepers. Arc.
And we are back. So obviously, we are joined, as I said earlier on, by the guest tonight, Mr. Dripwide, and my co-host, as always, Commander Wolf. Obviously, we've got a couple of things to do before we'll get into last story of the evening. So we'll do the sponsor read first, which is this week for the Android Fighting Championship. 28 rounds, fights of fast-paced action to determine who the next Android fighting champions are. Watch as the Great Gideon defends the L-Type belt against the people's favourite Hug Machine, and the Battle Royale to determine the inaugural J-Type champion. Live this Monday night, the Android Fighting Championship. If they die, they die. So thanks to Android Fighting Championship for this week's show sponsor. I guess we'll get the competition out of the way quickly, which is obviously, as always, is the randomised spin the wheel. Remember, you can enter this by getting in contact with us on our socials. So I'm just going to get on with it quickly and we'll spin the wheel. And it stopped. So obviously this week's winner is Commander Super Panda, and you have won a year's coverage by Omicron Salvage. So congratulations for that. So gentlemen, I think we can get into the last story of the night, which is the Hudson Initiative winning out against Felicia Winters. What are your thoughts, gentlemen? Obviously, the Federation increasing its spying campaign and Zachary Hudson winning out. So this obviously means that it's an increase of control in the Federation for the president.
sort of depends how you look at it, I suppose. On the one hand, you do have the increased security. Obviously, with President Hudson having access to more information, um, which should help in the long run. However, I would like to, know what is the limitations here. As far as Felicia Winter's campaign went, it went pretty poorly, obviously, with her losing support of many people in our core systems. It would be interesting to see if any large hidden terror cells
Well,
are
I think that's the thing,
found.
isn't it? I think that was always the question that we raised a couple of weeks ago. Was in what capacity is this sort of clandestine spying operation as it initially was? In what capacity is it actually going to bring out any terrorists themselves? And then obviously they've now kind of continued it off into the civilian sphere by actually requesting help from civilian pilots. Like you said, is what parameters are being put on this information? Like they said before that obviously when they were doing their clandestine campaign, that they were using algorithms and stuff to sift through this data. Well, what's being done now? What algorithms and stuff are being done now with all of this civilian data that's just been dumped wholesale onto the Federation's doorstep? Like yet again, like this raises a ton of questions in terms of not just the legitimacy galaxy wide of what the Federation is doing, but what is going on with this data? Who's having access to this data? What does this data actually entail? And what do they plan to do with it? Is it just like they say in terms of trying to catch domestic terrorists, or is there something else behind it? Like as Mr. Dripwide alluded to at the start of the show, is there some sort of interconnection between all of the stuff that's going on at the minute? Salvation, the Federation's increasing surveillance and stuff, ACT accusing Hadrian.
Um, I really don't like the murkiness of all this or where it's going. I mean, I'm all about the sort of conspiracy theories, and this is real ugly, I think.
I think it just tees it up, doesn't it? It's like to any person that even looks at this benignly, there are legitimate questions that obviously that we've posed on this show over the last couple of weeks as to what is going on with this data. How is it being used? How is it being accumulated? And obviously, like I pointed out in the first part, when they said that it was just a case of it's data that's being sorted through algorithms and stuff. We're looking for domestic terror cells and stuff. It's like okay, but now you've gone and asked civilian pilots to gather data off of anonymous people. Because like, what guarantee is there that any like all of this data that they're gathering is just off of federal citizens? And like, what are they doing with the data that's coming off of imperial citizens or independent citizens? Like, what are they doing with this data? Like, is it being accumulated as well? Well, then surely, as we've discussed before, that's an infringement upon my rights as an imperial citizen, or as your rights as an independent citizen to the listeners, or even as a federal citizen, to your rights as a federal citizen at the heart of it, because your data is being accumulated without your knowledge by government actors and now by civilian actors on the government's behalf. So it's a dangerous time. It's a dangerous time within the Federation as to how this plays out and how this ends. And obviously, Wolf, I know you were in the Federation when all of this stuff broke initially, and you kind of did predict that it would probably turn out like this on air. And then obviously when we discussed it after the show, well, we went a little bit more in depth. So how do you think this plays out? Like, what do you think the next steps are within this federal data drive that's essentially continuing to go on? Like, I don't see an end in sight to this. I don't see them just going, oh, this is over now. So how do you think this plays out?
Well, if I'm honest, I think you could sum it up as a whirlpool. You know, you've got all this data floating about. You've got all these like sort of clandestine paramilitary groups and stuff, and then you've got major organisations like ACT. It's sort of like a centralised intelligence network, like the old Earth nation, like how that old America had.
Well, obviously, it's as we've discussed before, it's ironic, isn't it? Obviously, that it draws a lot of parallels with the state-sponsored surveillance programs of the 20th and 21st centuries, and obviously the parallels that a large part of that during that era was dominated by America, which went on to obviously be the founding member of the Federation. Essentially, the Federation rose out of America being the last nation standing on a battered Earth, as it were. So obviously the implications are there, as you pointed out before, that this is part of the course for the Federation in terms of if you look at their history and stuff. So you think it's going to go the same way? You think that this collection of information it can only lead to chaos. It can only lead to it being used nefariously. Is that where you think it's going to go?
Yes, absolutely. There's always going to be casualties to things like this. I mean, it's history repeating itself, if I'm honest.
Oh, yeah, I completely concur.
Who is going to be the casualties?
Well, I think we can all assume with pretty good degrees of foresight here. The federal citizens are obviously the biggest casualty of this because they're the ones who are immediately having most of their data swiped. But then obviously anyone in any outlying systems, be it independent, imperial, anyone that comes across any of these federal whistleblowers, essentially, as they might be coined at this point, your data's at risk. Your data's at risk, and it could be chucked into the whirlpool of federal data that is currently being accumulated for whatever means we don't know. If people get hold of that for nefarious means, then again, so we talk about everything being kind of semi-linked potentially. We'll circle back very quickly before we end the show. I'll just throw a little theory out there. Again, we don't like to throw conspiracy theories out there very often, but I'll throw a little theory out there. What if the NMLA get hold of this data? They've already shown that they're capable of infiltrating the Federation. They've already shown that they're capable of striking at the direct heart of the Federation. They killed the vice president of the Federation. What if they were to get hold of this data? What is this data's potential ramifications in the hands of someone like the NMA? What could they do with this data? Because we have no idea what this data is. It could be something benign, like what they've kind of been saying, where it's just call logs and stuff like that for the most part, and transmitting data of locations and stuff. But we don't know. We don't know what personal information potentially is being gathered, and we don't know what groups like the NMLA could do with this data. And I, for one, do not trust the Federation to hold on to that data. So I posed a question to you, listeners, as we leave you tonight to get in contact with us on our socials. Where do you think this ends for the Federation? Do you think the data that they've accumulated is safe in the hands of the Federation, or do you think we should seriously be considering at least putting some sort of sanctions on the Federation, like imperial and independent systems, trade sanctions and other sanctions, until this is resolved? Because they're looking for domestic terror groups. There is a phrase, kicking the hornet's nest. So it's going to be interesting to see where this goes from here. But again, like I said, contact us on our socials. Let us know your thoughts. And again, don't hesitate to apply to Pimp My Ship. You can search it up on the HoloNet and drop your application off to Mr. Dripwide and Omicron Interiors, and if they feel it's valid, if they feel that you've got a case and a good show, more importantly, then I'm sure they'll hit you up. And remember to check out Shields of Justice this weekend, and also obviously check out our sponsor this week, the Android Fighting Championship. Their scheduled bouts that are live this Monday night. So remember to check all of those things out, and remember to listen back here again next week for the greatest radio show in the galaxy, hosted by me, your host, Commander Farquhar. This has been the Cracked Canopy Radio Show. I have been joined, as always, by my effervescent co-host, Commander Wolf.
07 Commandos.
And
07.
our guest host of the week, Mr. Dripwide.
Yo.
07 Commanders, and we'll see you next week.
300 years of refinement in a glass. It's the smoothest taste in the galaxy. Brewed by masters, loved by all. For those times of refinement, drink Lavian brandy.
California.